So I am working on my painting today. I have my image drawn out. Yes, I have a pumpkin. We need a new door decoration for the fall for the office. So this is what we're working at. I've got this big canvas, and you can see most of it. It is a big canvas. It's taking up lots of space. I'll hold it up. See? It's nice and big. Did you guys want to do big paintings?
Yes, please.
Yes. Little ones first. Okay.
Yes.
So I've got all of this big space. Where on earth do I begin?
With your paintbrush.
At the top.
Right there.
With the paint.
At the top.
You start at the open space.
Why would I start with the background?
Because it's easier to paint.
Okay, there's some
If I-
contrast.
If I start with the background, I've got all this careful drawing, right? I've done this careful drawing, and some of the details, like these lines on the pumpkin, are kind of a big deal to me. I like my shape of the pumpkin. I like my shape of my leaves here falling. If I paint them first, and then go in and fill in the background, what's going to happen?
You might mess it up.
I am very likely to mess it up. My background color is going to go over my lines. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I don't want to deal with that. I can solve that by painting my background first. So what should I do for my background?
Orange.
Orange? But then what color will the pumpkin be?
Red.
Black.
It could be blue.
It can be black.
Pink. Like blue.
Black.
Okay, we're just going to start with sky blue. We're not going to be too exciting here. Well, I might think it's fun. I'm also considering my audience, and this is for me and Miss Baxter to share. And while I might think a blue pumpkin and an orange sky is a good idea, I don't know if she's going to like that. So I'm considering my audience, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to paint the background first. I can be careful as I go. This should not be separating like that. That's odd. I don't know why it's doing that.
Because you got water on your
Too
brush.
much water.
Good job.
I can be careful as I go. But what do you notice about my brush, first of all?
It's big.
Taking up a lot of space.
Why am I using the big old giant brush?
Because you're doing a background.
Less time.
It's going to take me less time to do it. Should we ever dip our paintbrush into our paint cups?
No.
No. However, and we do that, that's a rule because we don't want to mess up what's in our paint cup, right? But if it's on my palette, is it anybody else's business?
No.
So I'm not even bothering to clean my brush. I know we are not supposed to mix paint on our brush. However, if I don't get paint above halfway on my brush, am I still okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm still okay. And this, notice, I wasn't trying to mix it very cleanly. One of the things you can do is when you put the paint on your brush is to actually not mix it up all the way. Maybe I just have the blue and the white on my brush and I paint them together onto the canvas. Look at the effect I get when I do that. I get some different shades, I get some interest in my background. That also helps me deal with, if I have more paint, I'm not having that problem with the paint separating out like it is down here where it's too watery. If I have paint on my canvas and it's still wet, I can also do what's called wet on wet, where if I go ahead and take my different color, I can start to blend it in. With acrylic paint, how fast does it dry?
Slowly.
It's usually pretty fast.
Fast.
Okay. So, I don't have a whole lot of time to play with blending with wet on wet, but I have a little bit of time. Is that more interesting than if I had just painted it a solid light blue? That's a lot more interesting. That's just white and blue paint, but I've combined them in a different way to make it more interesting. This is going to be a very helpful technique when you start looking at value. When you are creating value, how do I make different tints and shades?
Adding black or
Adding
white.
black.
I can add black and white, so I've got some donated black up here. Oh, that's pretty dried out. That'll work. So I've got some black. I think I've got enough. I can go ahead and make my darker orange. If I don't like how it looks with adding black, this is going to be important if you're using orange to some degree and if you want to use yellow, which I don't know I have anybody doing that right now. But when you add black to orange or yellow, it can get kind of ugly sometimes. It turns out like a snot green kind of color. To make it darker without doing that, you can add the complement instead. The complement is the color directly across the color wheel from the color you're dealing with. So if I've got orange, can anybody picture what's directly across the color wheel from orange? Blue. So I can mix blue with my orange to get a darker one also. This is a one color project that you're doing. You may use the complement of your color as long as it still looks like your color. So if my color was orange, I can mix in a little bit of blue with the orange as long as it still looks like orange. If it starts to look like blue, can I use that?
No.
No. So if I take that, I get kind of this in-between color. And I'm actually going for a dark orange, so does that work for me?
No.
Do a little more orange. Let's see what it looks like on the canvas, shall we? Is that still kind of an orange?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
Well, what is dark orange?
brown.
Brown. So does it work? So, I can use my wet and wet with my darker color. I can use my other darker color that I made. And I can start to get what looks like values. I don't know if you can see this as well in the video. On my canvas, it looks really thin. And so if I start to see that in my painting for real, I would probably just paint a solid color, let it dry, and then try to do it again. We don't have the highest quality paint. We have better quality than a lot of places, but not the best. And so some of it is just kind of thin. Once I have some bigger areas done, I can start to go down to a smaller brush if I want to be more careful about some of the details, like where this highlight happens to be going. Okay, so wet and wet is one technique that we can use, and I will, when we're done with the demo, I'll turn the lights on so you can see what it looks like in the light, and I'll carry it around and stuff. That's one technique we can use instead of just putting solid colors of paint on our canvas. Another technique we can use to create some texture is called dry brushing. Can anyone guess how this starts?
Dry.
With a
Dry.
brush.
With a dry brush. So I've got my brush as dry as I can. I'm going to use just a little bit of paint. See how I'm just kind of tapping the brush onto the palette? I'm not trying to scoop up paint. I don't have a lot of paint. Can you guys see how on the end of the brush there's just a little bit of paint?
Yes.
I don't want a lot of paint, but if I've got my dry brush, I can ever so lightly. I don't know what's on my camera and what's not. I can create almost this kind of feathery texture. You guys see that? Is that going to be useful everywhere?
No.
No. But are there places that might come in handy?
Yes.
Where might that come in handy on your portraits? For some of you, this might help you with the hair texture. Now, if you've got your hair all slicked back or you have a different style of hair, that might not be as helpful. But that is another technique. I can also use my dry brush to help me kind of blend in some of these colors a little bit. Okay, those are just a couple techniques I wanted to show you so that you've got some ideas in addition to just putting paint on the canvas. I'm going to continue working on this. I might call you back in a little while to show you what it looks like and to add some ideas to it. Can we go ahead and have the lights on real quick? Okay, that doesn't help on the screen, but it'll help on the YouTube video. Okay, thank you guys for your attention. You can go ahead to your tables and start working for today.